Here we go, back again. Man, every single week I tell you, can it get any more weird? Can things get any more dire feeling? Can there be any more ridiculous TikToks? Don't worry, I'm not going to do a TikTok review today, but there's still so many we could talk about. And I do enjoy me some TikToks and making fun of some of the stuff that people post. But I got to tell you about today's show. So really what I'm going to talk about is the lies they will tell you to keep the story going, the lies they will tell you to try to believe the narrative and keep continuing on in this fantasy world people are creating. So we're going to talk about that. We're also going to talk about some serious stuff. Supply shortages. People, buy all your Christmas presents now because you may not be able to. Oh my goodness. I got to talk about a comedian basically burning Netflix to the ground. I hope you heard about that story. Also, Biden stumbles around talking about something, but we're going to begin with America's favorite pastime, the WNBA. Now, today's episode is going to be as bittersweet as I could possibly be for me emotionally. So I had to start with the sweet first. The first thing that is super, super sweet in this episode is look at this beautiful baby. Molly and I, my wife, just welcomed our third child into the world. His name is Jackson. We're going to call him Jax Davies. So thank you so much to everyone for, your prayers and well wishes. Baby's doing great. Mommy's doing great. And it's going to be an awesome year. We're so thankful that the Lord blesses with another child. And it's going to be great. Hopefully I can leave them a better world, than the one I had going into it. So we're going to talk about some of the madness that we got to correct. And hopefully when my son grows up, he's not going to be forced to pretend that he likes something as ridiculous as the WNBA. Now, the WNBA is the woke league of America. It's unbelievable the amount of money that you'll see with these commercials pumped out on ESPN or primetime television. Hey, watch the new WNBA game. It's coming out this weekend. It's gonna be awesome. And it's just quit trying to make the WNBA happen. It's not going to happen. It's like fetch. It's like Mean Girls. It's ridiculous. They spend so much money on commercials, and it's literally a money pit. So why are you investing all this time and money in something that is never going to take off? It's never going to be that profitable. They spend way more on their a percent-wise of their profits on paying their players, and they still complain about playing the players. Relatively speaking, for the NBA's money, the NBA male players make less percent of the total profits. They're just, it's a money pit. It's literally a money pit at the WNBA, and yet it's keep being pushed because the WNBA does everything they're supposed to do. They tell the story the way that it's supposed to be told. And what I mean by that is everything that the media is pushing, the WNBA is all about. They brag about the fact that they're fully vaccinated, 99%, and of course, you have the NBA players that are not, so in line. They'll kneel for every time they can see a flag, they'll just drop to the floor and disrespect everyone that supports it, even though the American flag is the only reason they're making money dribbling a ball in a court that nobody cares about. Nobody cares about the WNBA. Every social justice issue, they pass with flying colors. Give them A's down the book. There's a first ballot woke league Hall of Fame kind of endeavor they have going on here. And yet they keep telling you it's such a big deal. They keep telling you that this is where the action is. Everyone's watching. This is so great. Please watch this. Please watch this. Please watch this. And they keep spending money on this lie because they want, and it's such a stupid story, but it's such a great example of how this works, where they're trying to get you hey, you got to get on board with this. This is the future. This is the kind of league. This is the kind of sports that you should be interested in. And yet reality will always reassert itself in the end. And you see this played out so perfectly in the WNBA championship parade. Apparently, the championship happened. I don't even know which league it was. Actually, I think it was in Chicago because that's where this video is from. This was their parade, and shockingly enough, nobody showed up. That's great. I like the one person's yay, you did it. You're awesome. Yay. That's the reality. Okay. They have all these lies they're trying to tell you to not believe what is actually going on. What's actually going on is nobody cares. Nobody cares. This is the city that won it. We have all these great fans. Didn't even show up. That is the reality. what also is the reality is that this faux idea of, promoting like minority voices and we want more inclusion and equality is an absolute lie. And this is summed up perfectly in what happened with Netflix and Dave Chappelle. Now, Dave Chappelle is one of the most popular comedians in the entire world. And he released a new special called The Closer. And I wonder if he named it that because he's like, this is going to be the end for me because I'm not going to walk perfectly step in step with the mainstream narrative. If you remember recently, in more recent years, after Trump was elected the first time, Dave Chappelle got some extreme flack. And this was a guy that was universally loved by all people and all demographics. He was excoriated in the media because he was on SNL, and after he did one of his, the opening monologue, he was like, hey, I don't know what's going to happen, but, I hope he does a good job talking about Trump, and, we all got to come together. And people were like, how dare you? How dare you say you hope this man does well? How dare you say that our president, I hope he does well? Because he's the bad orange man, and everything that is going to happen for the next 4 years is going to be literally the end of the world. And he got a score for it. He had this new special come out, and his great sin was that he told jokes about everyone, which is the most equality thing you can think of, right? I mean, like, no one, it's not like he's telling right-wing comedy. Like, there are right-wing comedians. He did not do that. But he was able to make fun of some of the absurdity that is just happening in our world around us, specifically when it comes to the transgender issue that's being flaunted across America, where it's like, until 5 minutes ago, we know none of us had to pretend there was no difference between men and women. Like, oh yeah, men can be women, of course. And it's like, if you even question that, or if you say like, no, actually, there are people that are born women. There are men and women. That's it. Like, there's two things. That's it. If you say that, you are immediately canceled. You're a bigot. You're racist. Like, I don't know how I'm sure they would throw race in there somehow if they could. But Dave, being the comedian he is like, no, I have got to make fun of how just absurd the reality of this is. Bill Burr actually did a pretty good job of this too when he was talking about Caitlyn Jenner and making fun of the fact that people are like, yeah, how are we supposed to not say this is a big deal? Like, this guy is a man and then just walks at a woman. We're all like, hey, okay, like, how's it going, Caitlyn? But like, in reality, if someone shaves their beard off, they're like, oh my gosh, dude, that's your chin. Yeah, that was his joke. Is like, it's just such a big deal. We had to pretend like it wasn't a big deal. We had to be involved in this national lie that like, oh, this is great. This is not bizarre, disordered, or whatever. But he told some jokes about some transgender individuals and caught a lot of heat for it. And now Netflix is basically doing a walkout. Here's one of the jokes, what he said. This is how benign it is and how you're not allowed to literally say anything.
She said gender was a fact. And then the trans community got mad as shit. They started calling her a TERF. I didn't even know what the that was. But I know that trans people make up words to win arguments. So I looked it up. TERF is an acronym. Stands for Trans Exclusionary Radical Feminists. This is a real thing. This is a group of women.
This is a real thing.
That hate transgender. They don't hate transgender women, but they look at trans women the way we blacks might look at blackface. It offends them. Like, ooh, this bitch is doing an impression of me. I'm Team TERF. I agree, man. Gender is a fact. You have to look at it from a woman's perspective.
That was his great sin. And he gives the example of blackface, being like, this is doing an offensive impersonation of me. Because even if you see people that are, drag or transgender, it's like, it's someone dressing up and pretending to be something they are not. And the radical feminists do hate this, which is like so funny to see people that are supposed to be in this coalition of people who are universally opposed to the West, traditional values, straight white Christian men, like everything like that. And these radical feminists are like, wait, guys, we fought so hard to have our special places and our hierarchy and where we are, and now men are just going to come in and dominate. It's just so funny to see, the first female admirable is a man wearing a dress, and then Caitlyn Jenner winning Woman of the Year, like all this kind of stuff. It's like, wait a second, I thought we were gonna dominate these areas. Now men are just jumping in there and doing better than we are. It's just like, it's so ridiculous. And Netflix had crazy pushback from this. I'm not sure what's going to happen with this special, if they're going to have to take it down or not, but their employees were staging a walkout over this. They're not after equality. They're after submission and they're after their own hierarchy. This is the left-wing lie, is that we're all going to live in some perfect utopia where everyone's equal somehow. But really, they clearly have their own hierarchy. There's people that are more offended. There's people that are more a victim. And because they perceive themselves as a victim, they need something from you. And they're going to need like money. They need like special privileges. We need like to be getting into all these different universities. We need different taxes. It's just everything. It's just this lie of equality. So much of it is just trying to get the equity that they want, not so much the equality. And that is a ridiculous lie. Almost as ridiculous as the supply chain crisis that is going on today. I don't know if you heard about this, hopefully, but there is going to be a massive shortage of things that is completely self-inflicted and self-imposed. And of course, the administration is diverting all the responsibilities and shirking it off. And I'll show you the solution, how it's supposed to be handled, and also the incredible lie they're trying to spin to say this is a great thing. The reason why I know this is going to be an absolute nightmare is because the administration knows it's going to be so bad that they're willing to take the bad press and the heat of saying months in advance, hey, you might not be able to get everything you want for Christmas for your children. I know you've been working so hard through this pandemic and trying to save up to, give your kids a special holiday moment that you guys can cherish forever. But you better buy your gifts now because you may not be able to get it because of shortages. And I mean, gifts are the least of our worry. I mean, obviously like food and infrastructure stuff is going to be way worse. But they actually came out and said that in not so few words. And the reason they said it is because they knew they had to get in front of it. You're willing to take the heat in the media right now to say something so outrageous as like, hey, sorry, y'all, but because we've shut down these ports and these because we have all these new COVID mandates and people being like work in proximities and people not wanting to get the vaccine, we can't mandate it on them, but we're not going to let them unload these trucks unless they're vaccinated or some I mean, it's absolutely insane. That there's just things like just people just all these products just floating out in the ocean with nowhere to go. It's crazy. So they are trying to get ahead of this now because it's going to be so much worse in the next couple months. That's how I know how bad this is going to be. It's shocking. I mean, it's some really just blatant like crazy stuff. They said this was also kind of like first world problems. Jen Psaki came out and said this, which I thought was pretty outlandish.
Why did Ron Klain think that rising prices was a serious concern under Trump but not under Biden?
I can tell you from sitting in a lot of meetings with Ron Klain day in and day out, he is obsessed with lowering costs for the American people, and that's driven from the president.
What does that have to do with anything that you just said? He's like, we excoriated Donald Trump if the prices went up in any field whatsoever. And her response to everything going to absolute garbage under this administration is he'll be like, we care a lot about prices. And that's like literally like that's all that Jen Psaki's got who speaks on behalf of the president. That's great. This is also what
doesn't it seem tone deaf to say that rising prices and empty grocery store shelves are high class problems? Isn't that a bit dismissive?
Well, that's not exactly what the tweet said, nor the retweet of the original tweet, which is what we're talking about here. It is true, though, Jake, and economists will tell you this, and I know you've interviewed some of them as well, that the fact is the unemployment rate is about half what it was a year ago. So a year ago, people were in their homes, 10% of people were unemployed, gas prices were low because nobody was driving, people weren't buying goods because they didn't have jobs. Now more people have jobs, more people are buying goods. That's increasing the demand. That's a good thing. At the same time, we also know that the supply is low because we're coming out of the pandemic and because a bunch of manufacturing sectors across the world have shut down because ports haven't been functioning as they should be. These are all things we're working through.
This is why it's such garbage. First, she says we have a supply shortage. Then why are tens of millions and billions of dollars worth of products just sitting in the ocean waiting to come in, but you're not opening up the ports properly? You're not able to help out the infrastructure and smooth things out. No warp speed plan is happening to get these emergency products like off these ships, to change some rules and regulations so we can do this more fluidly because we're coming out of a pandemic. You're able to do like, it's amazing, like the crisis that you will not use and the crisis that you will use. Like there's a lot of things that could be done clearly, and I'm gonna show you in a second things you could do. Well, it's so frustrating and unnerving to see the response and knowing how bad it's obviously going to get. Here's what you could do. Obviously, you could be like, okay, this is an actual emergency. Like shortages like this is going to, the ripple effects of this. It's like a car crash, like happening like 3 miles back, and then you don't see it, and then all of a sudden it's like bam right there, like everything's like standstill. knowing that things are going to get that bad, there's no emergency measures going into place from the federal government. However, certain states are taking it on themselves to fix the problem, because you can be like, all right, look, these are the normal rules and regulations. We have this thing. We got to change this right now because there's a shortage emergency that's going to happen. There's a crisis. There's all these different things. Ron DeSantis down in Florida had a solution. Here's what he said.
You see more empty shelves than we're used to seeing, and there's shortages of different things. Of course, we're also seeing increased cost in terms of inflation. Year-over-year increase in food prices so far is the highest it's been in 10 years. And of course, many commuters have been suffering under about a 50% increase in gasoline. And so you see a lot of problems. I know they just announced, well, in California, maybe they'll start having the port operate 24/7. Our ports operate 24/7. I mean, that should be happening anyways. And so we in Florida have the ability to help alleviate these log jams and help to ameliorate the problems with the supply chain. And part of it is because we've long been committed to reliable, modern, and accessible port facilities. Since I became governor in 2019, we've allocated almost $1 billion to over 70 Florida seaport projects. And these are approaches that have made us really, really strong.
That's what you do. Like, there's an emergency going on. Like, we're going to be opening up. We're going to have people come in and drop stuff up here. And not only is that going to help alleviate the problem, it's also going to bring tremendous wealth and opportunity to people in Florida. It's such a great move, and yet then you have the administration being like, oh, like these empty shelves, like it's not really that big of a deal. It's really, oh, and the thing that drives me crazy too is Jen Psaki, when she was trying to lie about, how good things are going. She's like, remember, like last year, the unemployment rate was twice as high. It was 10%. Now it's only 5%. 5% is still like a lot anyway. Do you remember what was going on last year? Last year was the lockdown. Like, yeah, of course there was people that were not at work. Like, it's just like, oh, it's slightly better than like when you artificially completely grinded the entire economy to a halt. Like, or wasn't them during the time, but the entire country like actually shut down for a period of time. Like the year ago, when like it was at its peak. It's insane. Like the kind of hat trick they're trying to play there. But this is the solution. There's a problem. These people are in power. These people are leaders. There are regulations that they have put in place on the American people and all these ports that they can change under these crisis times and be able to alleviate this problem that is going to be felt. Apparently, it's going to be terrible. Like, there's no way the administration would come out and say, hey, sorry, guys, I know this is going to hurt my numbers and tank them to the floor, which they have been, according to Rasmussen. It's the lowest, I think, of any president ever. But you may not get your Christmas gifts this year if you don't do it now. Like, that's just shocking. And they're gonna lie to you and tell you that this guy is in charge, which is absolutely laughable. And if you deviate from that, then you're going to be in a lot of trouble. Maybe you're, elderly shaming or whatever. Do you remember like everything that happened for 4 years? Like if Trump, was leaning forward, walking down a ramp because it was slippery and cold, and it's like, oh my gosh, this guy is not fit to run for, or not fit to be president. Clearly, his mental faculties are gone. Every single press conference, you must have the entire team be like, oh Lord, what is going to go viral from this moment? Every time Joe Biden steps in front of the public, it is a catastrophe. It's great for me because there's always material. Like literally there's always material. But no, for them, there's a crisis they have to fix at all times. And this is one that came up this week where he just literally forgets people's names. Can you imagine if it was another president this happened to and what they'd be saying?
I'm joined by the executive director of the ports of Los Angeles and Long Beach, Gene Soroka, and Mario Cordono. I apologize, Mario. And the president of the International Longshoremen's Union, Willie Adams.
Can you just imagine? I hate being like, what if like the shoe was on their foot, like all that kind of stuff. It's just so it's so easy to say. It feels cheap, but honestly, it's like every week, it's like this guy is just not quite there. And it's one thing to have your enemies feel a little more emboldened and making new deals, and also other people being like, look, you guys are not going to enrich us like these other countries are. That's the big problem too, is the countries that were kind of on the fence of like, hey, we're going to be more in league with the West and Europe and the United States, or we're going to be in league with these axis of evil countries that are going to enrich us on their own, and who are not promoting these radical ideologies that are completely completely conflict with our culture and our environment, whether it's countries that are in Africa or the Middle East or whatever. You see a lot more people making alliances with Russia, China, these other countries like, hey, we're going to make you wealthy and we're not going to foist all this woke nonsense on you and your culture. And that's terrifying to think about. That's a big issue. This issue is also incredible. Do you trust this guy to fix this supply shortage crisis that is going to happen? Can you imagine like the price of goods and gas in the next 6 months? Is like one of the first things Biden did when he got in the office was shut down the Keystone pipeline. That was me transporting natural gas. We were exporting gas and energy for the first time ever. We were independent, meaning we didn't have to buy oil or gas from any other country and have it shipped in, which is has way more emissions happen when you do that than a pipeline underground that you can't even see going directly to Canada. We were selling direct natural gas like from the Midwest to Canada, and now guess what? They're still buying it, but now we have to ship it in trucks over, which takes it's a nightmare. It's so stupid. It really drives me crazy. But this is the lie they're trying to tell you. Do not believe the lie. Do not believe the script they try to force in front of you. Don't believe them when they tell you that WNBA is this great sport that everyone's a part of, and that you all need to get on board with. Look for yourself. Reality will reassert itself in the end. I told you this was going to be a bittersweet episode, and it really is for me. Like I had the birth of my son this week, and then one of my best friends passed away this week. It really gave me some perspective, thinking about it, because tomorrow is not promised, and you got to make the most of today. You got to speak out now on these different issues. I really want to encourage everyone. when you have a friend, and some of you may know, if you follow my career, you may know Roman from photos, and we worked on, this is a photo from Rumors of Wars. He was a filmmaker. You can find Rumors of Wars on Netflix. Great guy. We also shot several music videos together. The Forget About Me with Dustin Devella. Dustin Devella is the one who just won America's Got Talent. He was a magician. This was a music video we shot with him. And it's hard for me to talk about without crying. I had to be vague, so I don't just break down talking about this. But what I want to encourage is just don't waste any time. Pursue all the gifts that God gave you. Use them to their fullest now, because tomorrow is not promised. Your friendships, pour into those. You don't know the next time you're going to see that person. Get into the Word, share the gospel with people. It's just because you just never know, And I definitely want to post a link for this video, but this was the Forget About Me video that we shot a few years back. And it just, it just really dawned on me this week how precious all these moments are. And you kick things down the road. You think, hey, I'll get to it tomorrow. I'll talk to my friend about this issue tomorrow. I'll have those deep conversations another time. It's more important to rest. You can sleep later. Sometimes it's worth driving the extra 10 minutes. Sometimes it's worth making the phone call. Sometimes it's worth, putting off binging some Netflix series to go with your friend and do something that'll last, projects like these, movies like these. So, if there's anything that I can, a message that I would like people to receive from all this is that we've all been given a purpose. God gave you these gifts for a reason. Use them to their fullest. Do not just do the typical thing that the culture or society is saying, oh, this is what you should do to be happy, or this is actually the best way to live. Seek first the kingdom of God, and all these things will be given unto you. And He gives us relationships for a reason. God made us for relationships and community, and to pour into those relationships are what's going to matter. Using God's gifts to His glory is what's going to matter. All these trivial things that the media or our culture will try to foist on you, that is pales to the memories that you'll have on earth doing those things, and then the eternity you have with Him. It's not even the same ballpark. And it's with a very heavy heart, again, that I say, do not wait for tomorrow. I'm Ben Davies, and this was Off Script.